Hey there, it's David Perdue here from MyNAMS.com and the Novice to Advanced Marketing System and NextNAMS.com. That's our new website for the what are we calling it? The workshop, the Novice to Advanced Marketing System workshop. Yeah, I've got too many things going on. So we do have a new website. Have you guys seen the new website? I'm going to introduce you in a second, but I just wanted to, have you seen the new website? It is the new event website that we have called nextnams.com, and it's the Novice to Advanced Marketing System, and it's really, really nice. Finally looks like we are a real event with a real event website that's not on our MyNAMS site, but uses our same affiliate program, by the way. So we're going to do a few Hangouts this week, Monday through Friday this week, every day from, let's see, from 1 to 2 every day. We're going to get some instructors from the NAMS workshop in here, and we're basically going to focus on 3 things this week, and we're going to get a take from each of the instructors who show up this week on the 3 questions that we're going to keep in front of our instructors. And today we have Daniel Hall, who has been to what now, 4 or 5 NAMS workshops, Daniel?
Something I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And then Kelly McCausey, who has been to probably at least 6 or 7, I believe, out of 12. We've got 12 coming up. So Kelly, you were at NAMS 2, and then you took a break and came back for a while, I think.
I've been at 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
But who's counting? And then Paul Evans, Paul, you've been around a long time at NAMS. You've been probably 8 of them.
Probably so, but you know how I keep up with stuff, so there's no telling.
Exactly, right. Okay, so these are 3 of our instructors who have a lot of familiarity with NAMS and what we do there. And the first question I wanted to throw at you guys, because I hear this a lot from our students everywhere. They complain in that they are stuck in their business, and sometimes I've been stuck in my business too. I think that I'm going down a path, and that path I just hit a roadblock or something, and I try to work through it, and sometimes you just have to chunk it and move on and go around. But tell me about a time in your business where you've been stuck, and I'm just going to go from left to right down here across the bottom and start with you, Daniel.
Okay.
When have you been stuck in your business, and how did you get unstuck?
Well, the biggest and most lasting problem for me has been my inability to stay focused, or as focused as I would want to be on the particular task that I have set up for myself goal-wise. So the big thing that has really kind of helped me is to just get clear with what I wanted to do and just stay laser focused on whatever that goal happens to be, and not allow myself to sort of fishtail off in some other direction, which is, I have a pretty short attention span, and I'm very, very subject to the bright, shiny object syndrome, where like, ooh, this is really cool, let me go check that out. Ooh, this is really cool, let me go check that out. And I really easily get off track. So when I was able to essentially get past that and stay focused on whatever goal I had set for myself strategically and long term, I was able to really do so much better in my business long term.
So when you're talking about being stuck in your business, you're saying that you were stuck in your business because you weren't focused on a thing, right?
Exactly.
And what kind of symptoms did you see about being stuck?
Well, one of the things that I did to sort of overcome the problem is, it does take a kernel, okay, a nugget of discipline, is to recognize that I was getting distracted, that something had like popped up on my radar that I really did want to go check out, but not essentially allowing myself to do that. And one of the things that I've sort of, the litmus test that I personally use in my business is I try to if an idea keeps recurring to me, or recurring over and over and over and over again, I take that as a sign, right? That I really probably should check this out. So that's the other thing too, that and I won't check it out, whatever it happens to be, a new tactic, a new strategy, a new skill set that I need to learn, whatever, until I have completely mastered what I'm presently doing. That's another big tip.
So that we kind of glanced right over that little last piece, which was you don't go on until you've mastered what you were doing. So that's really a key tip right there, is to master that one technique before you move on to the next. Kelly, tell us about where you've been stuck in your business and what the symptoms of being stuck were as well.
Well, back in 2011, I felt really stuck. I felt a little unmotivated, and I felt like I lacked direction and vision for where I was going with my business. And it surprised me because I'd never struggled with it before. So ever since getting started in 2002, I knew who I was and who I wanted to serve, and that was I was a work-at-home mom, and I wanted to help other work-at-home moms succeed. And I started to notice a lack of response from my market when I would talk about things, and I had a moment of epiphany that even though I had been a work-at-home mom for a really long time and I still loved the work-at-home mom market, I wasn't technically a work-at-home mom anymore. Sean had grown up. He'd turned 18. He'd moved out of the house. And I had an empty nest. I had a lot of freedom. I started to talk about things like traveling and maybe getting an RV and just giving up my house and things like that. And my market didn't like that. That, half of them were scared that I was going to be murdered in an RV in some Walmart parking lot.
Could happen.
And the other half just couldn't relate to it. They're like, wait a minute, Kelly, you're freaking us out. We've got kids to take care of. We've got soccer camp to deal with. And I just realized this isn't my market anymore. I love them, but I can't relate anymore. And I had to really think about, who am I then if I'm not a WAM, if I'm not a work-at-home mom? And I decided to really think about, what do I do? And if I'm not a WAM, who am I? And I came up with solopreneur. I want to run a business on my own, light and tight, on purpose. I don't ever want to have employees. I love the freedom and flexibility of having a 100% online business. And so I went through a rebrand in the summer of 11 where I just let everybody know I'm going to leave the work-at-home mom community with much love and appreciation and pursue a new market. It didn't really change me. I mean, I still taught all the same things, but it changed the underlying purpose of everything that I was doing. It wasn't about being able to stay home with kids. It wasn't about being able to homeschool or whatever. It was just about being able to pursue my own individual life choices. And
so that had to be really scary, though, because, I mean, that was a complete shift for you, right? To give up something that you had been building up already.
Yes. Work at Home Moms Talk Radio was my brand. And when you thought of Work at Home Moms, you definitely thought of me. And it was terrifying. I thought my market would hate me for leaving them behind. I've always hated the idea that the work at home mom world is a training wheels market. I think some people do look at it that way, and I wanted to make sure they didn't see that in me. And it actually went really well. I mean, I presented it, with much love and without any negativity, just facing facts that, my son was grown and out of the house, and I didn't have those same concerns anymore. It went really, really well, and it got me totally unstuck because it set me free to continue to build a business that was congruent with me
Mm-hmm.
and where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my market came with me. A lot of work-at-home moms said, you know what, solopreneur is a nice fit for me. They don't really care if I talk about, kids being at home or, anything like that. They don't care if I talk about their home life. They were perfectly happy to follow me into a world where it was more business focused and less family oriented.
So let me just rephrase what I'm hearing here, so we capture the point. And the point was that you were feeling stuck. As far as I'm hearing, you were feeling stuck in your business because it no longer reflected who you were, and the way to get unstuck was to honor who you were and make that leap.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That sounds like a good tip. Okay, so Paul Evans, coming to you. Unmute yourself there, partner. And how have you been stuck in your business, and how did you get out of it?
Man, over these many years, I've been stuck a lot of times. But what I try to look for is a pattern. What do I keep repeating? And I find one thing I do over and over and over again that almost always gets me stuck. It's similar to what Daniel said when he said the bright, shiny object. I have bright, shiny productivity. I don't actually get drawn away by purchases or even a new model. What I end up getting drawn away by is having a task list that I love doing. Like I love to design. I've created like 4 lead pages today. I bought 3 websites, 3 domains this past weekend. Now in the past, I would have spent all this time setting those up. And in my mind, I would have had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to do with those. And the way that I got unstuck was to always ask the question, is this going to lead to profitability? Is what I'm working on right now, is this just fun, or is this something that's going to end up building the business? And once I used a very simple question like that, it really brought a lot more purpose and direction into all of my tasks, so that I'm not simply getting a lot done, but I've actually got a reason to get it done. So that's what I'm focusing on.
So that's a really good one, because I think a lot of people are stuck and frustrated. I mean, you get really frustrated. I do get really frustrated when I'm accomplishing a lot, task-wise. I always say I'm very productive, but does it lead to that profitability that you were talking about? That is a huge thing for us to look at, right? So how do you ask yourself that question, but do you have like a checklist or anything that you go through on this?
Well, it's not actually a checklist, but it is a process, so it is a model, and I think all of us are pretty much on the same model. We've got to have traffic, we've got to build our list, we've got to make offers. There's those 3 components. And so I usually think about it and say, which component is this that I'm working on right now? And is it my priority? Before I get traffic, I've always got to have the capture up. But I don't have to have the product ready. What I was working on today is for a launch that's going to take place in about 3 weeks, but none of the product itself exists at all. And it'll be created, after the sales take place. So that's not even the important component. So I don't need to be spending all my time right now being productive on the product. I can outline it, but I don't have to do any of the effort because it's not a priority right now. So that's what I tend to do, is look at those 3 components, see which is the priority, and those are the tasks that I do.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Daniel. We have some questions coming in too, and we're going to handle these questions when we get through our little list here. We'll probably have about 30 minutes when we're done here for handling questions. So if you have questions you want to drop in the box here, go ahead and do that, and we'll grab those as we come back. So Daniel, you talked about the bright shiny object syndrome being a place where you were getting stuck. Is that what your biggest problem was, or do you have other things in your business that you see as your biggest problem that you continually deal with?
Well, that's primarily my biggest problem, at least that I could see, and that's just being unfocused, and that's actually why I came up with, sometimes I'd wake up in the morning, David, and I'd figure out, I have this really super long to-do list here, and I don't really feel like doing any of it. I'd really rather do something else completely, but I know that that's not what I should be doing. So what I ended up doing is setting up a model, a system that I follow, or I try to follow every day and try to remember every day that I seem to be, not getting anywhere, spinning my wheels. And the model goes is like this. I try to do at least 2 business building, revenue generating things every single business day. So whether that's sending an email, whether that's contacting a joint venture partner, or whatever. Okay, so that there's some forward momentum to getting money in the bank. So that's first. The second thing I try to do is I try to do some business building activity, at least 2 business building activities every day. So whether that is writing a guest blog post, whether that's making a tutorial video, whether that's outlining a new product, whatever it is. So there's essentially 2 things. You obviously have to have money coming in to pay your bills and to build your business, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing doesn't necessarily immediately generate income like the first 2 activities, but it helps in the future. So that's essentially the plan that I personally use to sort of get past my lack of focus, or on those days when I'm figuring when I notice that, hey, I'm just sitting here spinning my wheels. What should I do? Well, here's what I do.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. So Kelly, coming back to you, biggest problem in your business, and how do you overcome it?
Well, what was the biggest problem that I overcame, or a big problem I'm facing now?
Either.
That I was thinking about the biggest problem I faced initially, and that was not having any money. None at all. I was a broke single mom, so stinking broke. I started my online business because my utilities kept getting shut off. I had my propane pig run empty on Christmas Day.
Ew.
I had my phone get shut off. I mean, I was just so stinking broke and frustrated. And so when I came online, I spent a tiny bitty money on a domain and hosting, but then when people would point me to different learning resources, my eyes would just cross. And I would think, you're crazy. I don't have any money to spend on any of it. And I was very confused. Why did books cost $50? I mean, I could go to the bookstore and buy a book for $7. The first book I did end up buying, after I think it was more than a year before I actually spent the money, I bought Rosalind Gardner's super affiliate book for $50. And I was shaking in my boots when I did it, because it just seemed like such a fortune to spend. Right. It was my huge problem. But you know what? It actually turned out to be a huge benefit, because I didn't have any money, and I didn't have credit cards either, because I'd ruined my credit years before. It was a benefit. I had no choice but to do stuff. I couldn't get caught up into an endless cycle of learning and chasing gurus. All I could do was do something. And I'm so glad, because I had to put everything I learned into action. I went to things like, we didn't have Hangouts back then, but this would have been a seminar, a teleseminar years ago. Yep. I would go to teleseminars, and I would be taking mad notes, and then I would do this crazy thing. I'd go do it. I'd just go do it. And I'd make money, and I was able to pay my bills. And but the way that I slowly overcame the problem was, as soon as I had an income of any amount, I determined to reinvest 25% of it. Period. I mean, if I made $200, then $50 went back into some kind of a learning resource or software. I just forced myself to do it. It hurt, because there was still bills to pay. But
so you were self-funding.
yeah,
Love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I reinvested 25% for a good 3 or 4 years before I felt like I don't need to spend that much anymore.
Mm,
And about that time was when all my debts were paid and I quit the day job.
good
So,
for you. Wow,
it worked.
nice. All right. So, Paul, I'm coming to you. Biggest problem that you have overcome in your business?
Huh. I love what Kelly was saying just a second ago about how she just went and did it.
Right.
And in my early days, I'm actually from the offline world. So I owned the businesses offline and brought that online and was fairly successful right out of the gate. But then I got too smart for my own good and decided to start studying a lot of things, complicated my entire system, made it all just so incredibly complicated that I just woke up one day and thought, only my original thing is working. None of the other things I'd tried were even working because one, they were either trend related,
Right.
and the websites ended up getting doused or whatever, or I was spending so much time putting all these systems in place that was killing me instead of streamlining it, instead of making it tight. And that's one of the things that we do at NAMS is to make sure that we've got something tight that we're doing instead of something overwhelmed and complicated. So I kind of woke up one day and just thought, and I remember being in a mastermind and saying, I've lost my life. I don't know where it went. I used to have like a great time, all this free time, and now I'm working but not getting anywhere.
Right.
And so that to me was a big something to overcome from the standpoint of a lot of people start out there. They overcomplicate it from the very beginning, get overwhelmed instead of saying, what are the base components? What's necessary to build a business? And it's the same offline and online. And once I went back to those roots, that was how I overcame it. Just backtracked and stopped allowing all the complicated elements to overwhelm me and just focused on simplicity.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned NAMS2, and one of the things that I love about the workshop that we put together is that we tried very hard to focus on the very, what was it? Alex called it the skill-appropriate levels, so that
Right.
if you're in the beginner, you're dealing with beginner stuff. If you're in the advanced, you're dealing with advanced stuff. And often always we try to keep it as still on a simple level, because I think I'm the only guy that's allowed to make things complex at NAMS, and that's basically by design with all the rooms and the teaching that we've got going on. So when people come to NAMS, I want them to realize that they're coming there to learn specific tactics and learn specific ways of doing business. One of my favorite things is to see people going into the 100 group and they don't have a blog or a website or a niche.
Right.
And by the end of the weekend, they got a blog and a website and a niche, and they're ready to start rocking and rolling, making some big money. And then we've got down at the other end of the hall, we've got the people in the 400 group who are in the advanced level, who are in there actually sharing business ideas and ways to build assets with each other. So I'm loving that about the NAMS workshop. I always have loved that about as we evolved, how that came to be. And that was because of the people like you who jumped in there and volunteer your time to do it. So I really appreciate you guys doing that too. We got a lot of people putting comments and questions in here, and we're going to go to the questions. Then we'll come back at about 1:45, and I'm going to ask you each what your secret weapon was for making your business incredibly successful. So you've got one, and you know that if you don't do this thing, your business doesn't work. So think about that, what that is, okay? Well, let's take a look back through the questions here, and you guys, I think you have access to the chat as well, and you can take a look at some of this. Let's see. So Carolyn is asking about this month's challenge. Yes, we'll be doing the 30-day challenge next month on list building, and yes, you can jump in. No, don't wait. Jump in, even if you're going to be gone for the first week. Jump in, because you got it. You don't ever want to wait. Don't wait on anything. Just jump in and start doing stuff like Kelly was saying. That is in the insiders group. at NAMSinsiders.com, you can participate in next month's challenge, which is 30-day list building, and it's our huge challenge. Daniel, Mary Jo says, coming off doing the real, let me make sure that this is a question. So she's saying that she's coming off doing the real fast webinar training of yours, Daniel. Have you seen this question that Mary Jo has?
No,
in the chat?
I don't know where the questions are. Or the
oh, okay, there's a chat box on the right there in the. I'll just read it.
Okay.
Fast webinar training of yours and Tom Antion, which I loved, by the way. Now wondering if it's a good idea when I only have GoToWebinar for 100 to present the webinar many times, so I can invite as many JVs as possible. I'm fine on my end, as doing it over and over is good practice. I'm new at webinars, old hat at teleseminars. So I think she's asking whether she should be repurposing the webinars to do autoplay in there, since she has a 100-person seat. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things that you could do. Absolutely, always repackage and repurpose everything and anything that you can. That's all about leverage, and it's really how you could build your business in a very large way. Now, if you are consistently hitting the 100-person mark with your attendees, that's great news. I'm so happy to hear that. There's two things that you might think about doing. Number one is you could simply really master this technology, the technology that we're presently using with the Google on-air Hangouts, where you could essentially have unlimited people, and you can run it like just like a webinar. In other words, you can share the screen. You don't even have to show your face or anything like that. So that's something that you could do. The other thing that you could do is, if your income warrants it, you can increase your subscription. I'm not sure what the next level on GoToWebinar is. I think it's a 500 person line, and I'm not sure how much that is today. But one of the things I surely would do is call GoToWebinar and ask for their whether they have any deals to go to the 1,000 person account. And you never know. There was a time when you can get 1,000 people on your account for $79 a month. Okay, and I don't think that particular deal still exists, but probably there is one like it. Why do I say that? Well, because we have this technology that we're presently using right now that's completely free, and you might tell them that I'm thinking about getting rid of my GoToWebinar account altogether, so I can just go learn Google Hangouts. Do you have something for me?
Yep, that's exactly what I did, by the way. I moved from GoToWebinar to Webinar Jam, and I'm using Google Hangouts, and I did it I got in when they did the one-time lifetime on Webinar Jam, which meant that I had to suffer through some of their growing pains. But you do that when you know things are going to be improving, and that's what happens with this software. So there is an option there for you too on this, and a webinar is a webinar. You can actually do screen shares via Google Hangouts as well. That present as webinars, so it's not.
And I want to commend you, Mary Jo, on actually doing it. Getting out and building your community, and broadcasting your fine content. It's really, really important, because there are a lot of people want to do it, and they think it'd be cool to do it, but they don't. You
right.
are, and I believe that should be recognized.
Right. Before I go to the next question, I just want to tell people that I put a poll. If you click on the polls tab, there's a question there about have you felt stuck in your business, meaning you're not moving forward and can't figure out why. So just complete that poll, click on that, do it. You can vote there, and it's in the polls tab, and we'll end it in a second and see what the feelings of our 81 viewers are on this Hangout. So. Claire says, I'm not just stuck, I have no traction, and many say to do it their way when our temperament and ideas might need a different format. And she follows it up with a comment right after that that says, by the way, some of us were very successful in our fields until marketers mangled and disillusioned us. That's an issue, right? I mean, who to follow, who to resonate with, and who to choose to let them teach you is an issue that you got to deal with. So you guys got thoughts about that?
I do.
Go ahead.
All right, so to me that's a big issue, because there are a lot of very talented people, folks on this call. Paul, for example, Kelly, very accomplished people, and they know exactly what they're doing. And I've JV'd with both of them happily. And the really cool thing is that if you find somebody, and this is sort of where you have to get your own antenna up and make your own visceral sometimes decisions, and kind of who do you best resonate with? How can you follow what that particular person, what that particular leader is saying to do? And you will, if you look, you will find folks that you do resonate with more than others. And when I say resonate, I mean that's, in other words, it's what they're saying, just so that we're clear, makes the most sense to you. It just you automatically kind of see yourself doing what they're suggesting. That's really what I'm saying when I say resonate, because a lot of times we use that word and don't really fully define it. Well, there's my definition of it anyway. So you find these people and you're looking for that, and then you just follow the one or maybe two folks that you best resonate with.
Okay, and Kelly, Paul, do you have anything about that?
I mean, what Daniel said to me is so dead on. If you're going to look at some other aspects, look at their history, look at their track record, see who they've helped, see if you can talk to any of those folks. I did that before joining a couple of mastermind groups years ago. I talked to some of the previous folks in it and said, what do you think? How'd this work out for you? And then I take that with a grain of salt too, because some people will join a program and still not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to look at that. But I think that a lot of the things that Daniel was hitting too, that along the lines of character, along the lines of value system, those are some other things as well. Because you can follow somebody who doesn't have the same ethics as you, and suddenly they're recommending you do some things that they think are completely legal, but you think could get you in jail. Right. So you've got to be careful with all that and weigh it.
Okay, Patty says, what is your best tip to sit down and create a product for your market? Should I clear my desk, turn off my computer, what else? Kelly, that sounds like you.
Well, you have to zone in on a real felt need for your market, and you have to go deep. You can't just say, well, my market needs to learn how to run. Let's say you're a running coach. My market needs to learn how to run. How many products are there that say, how to start running? Woohoo! That sounds exciting. Not very. But what's the real felt need? Why do they need to run? What is really motivating them? I did a brainstorming process with Judy Mick once, just brainstorming the title of a blog post, but this could be applied to anything, to a webinar, to a product. She wanted to write about why you should run every day, why it's a mistake to skip and make excuses. And it's what I call a bullying technique to get down to the real felt need. If you say, I want to teach people how to run, I'm going to say why. And they're like, well, because you need to know how to run. Well, so what if I don't run? Well, if you don't run, you'll gain weight, you'll No, so what? Who cares? What's the big deal? I bully until they can give me a really, really good reason.
You're saying bully. You bully.
Well, yeah, bully yourself until you come up with the real felt reason, the thing that would really get the attention of the person.
Okay.
And what we came up with, Judy, was instead of writing about why you should run every day, she wrote about how one missed day of running turned into a pile of chocolate chip cookie crumbs and regret. You know, that grabs attention. That describes a lot of people, and makes them really interested in what you have to offer. So to get started on a product, get down to a real felt need,
Right.
and then just go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Let's see. So I just wanted to repeat about the poll. If you haven't voted on the poll, I'm going to close it in about 1 minute. So go over there and vote on the poll about your sticky, not your sticky, your stuck. When you've been stuck, if you've been stuck, and if you understand what the stuck part is. So Heidi says, when I can't do things perfectly, I tend to give up and hope for a new way to try things. And technical stuff, I get hung up on that and can't move forward, mostly surrounding list development. Is it just me? Who wants to tackle that? Paul.
I will. You know, perfection and wanting to get it right the first time out of the bat, you know, is just something that's not realistic. I don't mean to be ugly about that, but it's not realistic. Almost everybody tends to have that failure. Almost everybody fails out of the gate, especially with technology. So one of the things that I recommend is that you get a disposable website, that you go out and buy a domain that you'll never use, and you can call it mydisposablewebsite.com, and you practice there. The whole thing is that it is set up for you to fail. Do as bad a job as you can setting up that opt-in form. Really stink at making a post. It doesn't matter because nobody's ever going to see it. Our problem with perfection is that we're afraid somebody else is going to see it and judge it. And part of that is us. My oldest son is a perfectionist. I'm like, boy, you got to let it go. But he's always focused on it because he feels like I've got one shot at it, and if I don't get it right, then, you know, what looms? But if you'll do something that's just disposable, then that gives you your practice time before you go live with it.
Good. That's good. Good suggestion. Get a disposable website. Liz says, I'm a serial learner. Love learning, reading, absorbing, taking trainings, but I'm slow to implement all that learning. Suggestions for moving from learning to implementing. I'm going to make one before I hand off this thing, and that's the reason we've built NAMS the way we have. Each instructor does their session in 2 parts. First is the teaching, second is the implementing, and that needs to be a model that you adopt in your life. Is if you're going to do the learning, then do the implementing. And if you decide in the implementing that this technique wasn't for you, at least you gave it a shot. There's so many people that take training and then decide that they don't even decide. They just don't do it. And so they never know whether it works or not. So Daniel, and Kelly, you talked about this earlier a little bit, but Daniel, you talked about this quite a bit as well with in the staying focused piece of this. So do you think implementation is part of that focus that you have to get involved in?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you definitely need to obviously stay hyper focused on, you know, and that's another thing that, you know, I really should say here is that, you know, a lot of us think, well, there's all these bright shiny objects out there, and we want to go this direction, we're interested in going that direction, etc. But, you know, when you have landed on the thing that you really want to do, you essentially learn it through and through completely until you start seeing results with it, okay? Until you start seeing results with it. So whatever topic it is, whatever strategy it is, whatever tactic it is, whether that's list building, whether that's article marketing, whatever it happens to be, you do that one thing until you start seeing results with it. Okay, and then you move on to the next thing that might be related, and that actually speaks to the part of the question that you know, if you're not all that technically adept. Well, the really interesting thing that I've learned in this business, because I too started just just like a big dum-dum. I mean, I didn't even know what HTML was. And the really interesting thing is that as you learn one task, as you stay on one task, you sort of move over to, after you've mastered that, you kind of move on to a related task, right, or a related tactic that builds on your previous knowledge. So you're sort of building in steps, and you're learning in steps as you implement. And that, for me anyway, and for many of my students, that has seemed to work really, really well.
Great answer. So let's see. There's a note here from Kim. She says, and by the way, I skipped about a dozen people who said, what a great story that you gave, Kelly, about your situation with no money and how you just had to do it and all of that. But Kim gets right to the point here and says, so Kelly, you just did what you could without having a coach. So many times we're told if we don't have a coach, we will not make it. You got a response to that? You, Kelly.
Yeah, I do. I did not have a coach. I didn't know any coaches, but I did choose someone to pay attention to, and I stalked them virtually in every way that I could. I went to every teleseminar. I got on their mailing list. I was that freebie seeker, tire kicker. I took advantage of every single opportunity given to learn all that I could, and I kept my focus on just one or two people who were doing what I believed I could do. I also sought to learn from people. Like, I used to go to all the webinars that Alex Mandozian and Armin Morin did, but I didn't really believe I could do what they were doing. I had a big, huge mind block about that, but I still wanted to hear what they had to say. So focus on someone who's doing what you believe you can do, what you will do, and stalk them. Take advantage. We're all content marketing to within an inch of our lives here. So take advantage of all of it and just make it work. But just don't spread your focus too far and wide. You'll make yourself crazy.
Yeah, so we're all coming back, I think, to this focus piece. And even if you don't have a coach, you had a coach, Kelly, because you were actually stalking one person. That's because of the focus piece, right? And stalking there is used in a good term. We just want to say you didn't show up at their house, right? We do know that that's happened before as well. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Lisa says, I agree. The more things you buy to learn, the more complicated it gets. With my hard drive full of stuff, I have no idea where to start. Overwhelmed is the perfect word. We hear that a lot about the overwhelmed thing. People are really overwhelmed. I think that I'm overwhelmed often, but I really have to wade through stuff every day just to figure out what is it. It's like Daniel was saying, what is it that I have got to focus on getting done today that's going to move me forward? And I've been working on landing pages like Paul and building my list, because I know that the list is really the key to my entire business. There you go, by the way, that's my secret weapon. So you guys got any ideas about overwhelm? How to deal with overwhelm? And Kelly, don't yell. You yelled at the last workshop when we asked people how to get past the shiny bright object syndrome. So overwhelm. Anybody? Did I just describe it?
I could jump in with the overwhelm question if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that I try to do is, it's really kind of all about balance and keeping things in perspective. So I try to spend time with my beautiful wife every day. I try to play with my standard poodle Roxanne, every day. I try to, go to the park with my baby boy, or whatever it happens to be. It's not just about work. And to me or for me, that helps to keep things in perspective so that, yes, maybe in my workaday world I'm feeling overwhelmed, but because I try, and I'm certainly no genius at this at all, but I try to stay balanced in every other aspect of my life, it helps. It really helps on the overwhelm part of it. I know it's not sexy, but that's my answer.
That's a pretty good one. Anybody else got something you want to say about overwhelm?
You know, when it was just mentioned that so many folks have stuff that's just sitting there and they don't know where to begin, that's what creates the overwhelm. It's not necessarily that we've got too much information, it's that we don't even know how to organize it. We don't know where to start. And that's why it's important to have a step-by-step. That's why it's important to have the checklist, and why it's important as well. I love what Kelly said. She followed somebody. She located somebody that she was going to follow their steps. It's so much easier to follow one person. I think I may have even done this talk at NAMS when I was training for a half marathon, which I quit running and taking up eating. I'm doing great at it, by the way. And the half marathon, I downloaded one program, and that's all I did. I didn't download 5 different training programs. I did one and was successful. But if I had downloaded 5 programs, I would have been overwhelmed too, not because there was too much information, it's just that I wouldn't have known which one was right. So and the truth is that every one of those would have been right as long as I'd followed just one. And so one of the big keys to overwhelm ending for me is to follow one path instead of thinking, how do I converge these 20 paths?
Right. You know, I think it was NAMS1, the very first one we did, when Lynn Terry told us in that room about her phrase, start to profit. And I latched onto that from that point forward and really said that's what I need to remember, is start to profit. If I'm going to start something, I got to make money with it. And when I buy something, by the way, when I buy a tool or product that I'm going to use, and I want to make sure that I use it, I want to make sure that I'm also an affiliate of it, because if I buy something, I think there's no reason for me not to make money from it. If they don't have an affiliate program, I'm going to think really hard. It's got to be something I really want before I don't purchase that. Okay, so it's 1:47. Sorry about the poll not being live. I was stuck on the poll. That was where I was stuck today. So it is live. You can vote now, and I'll go back and close that out in just a minute. Now I'm going to come back to, we got like 12 minutes left here, and I wanted to come to our last thing, secret weapon. I hope you've been thinking about what your secret weapon is. I really feel like my secret weapon is not just my list. I said my list earlier, but I think it's my relationship with my list. I get good open rates with my list because my list, my community, it's really almost disrespectful to call them lists. It is really more community because we build that kind of community in our NAMS system, and that's what we try to do at the workshop. It's what we try to do in our insiders group and in our membership as a whole, is we get people together, and we have 3 acronyms we use, which is our three words we use in our tagline: team, training, and tools. We try to focus on those 3 things. Big part of that is team. That's the list. That's the engagement with our instructors. It's what we're doing now to present you good, solid information. And so to me, my secret weapon is the relationship with my list. So, Paul, what's your secret weapon?
I think my secret weapon is probably that I don't really care what other people think too much. And so so I'm not afraid to put stuff out there. I mean, when I look back at my very first website, I actually built it in Microsoft Publisher. It was converted to a JPEG and looked awful, but I didn't care. I didn't care because I figured that those 2 people that signed up for the list was better than nobody signing up for the list. Right. And then and when I say I don't care, I don't mean that in a negative way, but like I had someone email that was having an issue, and it was like a 3-page email. And I knew that they were having a bad day, right? So I didn't take it personal. All I emailed back was, "Whew, that's a lot of words." And that was it. You know, I didn't get into the whole deal that a lot of people do of being worried that someone had an issue. And so in my business, not really caring in a very positive way allows me to get a lot more done, a lot more out there, a lot more products created. because I'm not worried about perfection. I'm worried about results. And the only way that the most people in my space can get results is if I'm delivering quickly and as accurately as possible without getting bogged down by a lot of these things that just caring too much. I hope that makes sense, but that's really my secret weapon.
No, that made a lot of sense. I really enjoyed that. Kelly, you're up next. What's your secret weapon?
Well, I'm gonna be sappy and say friends.
Friends?
Friends. Paul, I have that in common with you. I don't care a lot when people are being mean and nasty to me. I'm not real introspective about that sort of thing. I guess I've just gotten used to people not liking me, and I don't get all worried about it. But there are people in my life that I've picked up along the way that I've become close to, and I do care deeply about them.
Right.
Their input is so valuable to me. You have to filter out the people that don't matter from the people that do, and there are people that do matter. Huge. I've always been I've been a ruthless decision maker as far as giving up projects that don't work. The minute that I'm done with it, I am done with it. I am not all emotionally wrapped up in any particular project or brand or anything. But people are precious. Friends are precious, and I'm never going to ruthlessly slash a person out of my life. And that's my secret weapon, because my friends have built my business. They have loved me and supported me and given me tough feedback and called me on my bull crap, and they've promoted me. They've been my affiliate. They've lifted me up. They've told their people to trust me, and that's why I'm successful. It's because of what other people say about me. And those other people are my treasured friends.
I got to build on that, because I have told people before that we have over 115 instructors in the NAMS instructor corps now. And I started with 6, and I was introduced to those 6. And so I brought those 6 on, and those 6 then started inviting other people. And you're all here because you were invited by somebody else into the instructor crew. And the reason that I did that was because I wanted to leverage their friendships, their relationships, and their sense of integrity. I started with a really good group of people with great integrity and said I wanted to continue that. And if you brought in your folks, you had a piece of the, what do we call it, skin in the game. You had skin in the game if you brought in people into the workshop. So that's one of the reasons that I really have been focused on the friendships and the relationships in the instructor corps and in the student group, because the students then move into the instructor corps. We have about 12 students out of our instructor corps who moved up into the instructor rank. So, that's because they did what they were told, they showed results, they earned that spot. And one of them started with no website, no product, no nothing, from the very first one. And she's been an instructor for the last 5 NAMS workshops, so she's done great. That's really, really delightful to me. So, Daniel, what's your secret weapon?
Before I cover what my secret weapon is, David, I just want to say, to sort of springboard on what both Kelly and Paul have said here, to bring it into focus just a little bit more, in that when you are in business, you must realize that you are not going to be for everyone on the planet, okay? You are basically, the way you should look at it is you're here to serve your target market. And if by what you say, what you do, how often you email, all that stuff irritates some people, they, guess what, are not your target market. Okay, so that's really, really important. Don't worry about people liking you or not liking you. What you've got to be really, 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 really focused on is delivering results, as Paul said, for your target market. Nothing else matters. Period. Punto y aparte. That's it. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that point. Now, on to what I consider to be my secret weapon. When I started out, I really was, basically a big old dum-dum when it came to anything technologically related. And although I had a career, a professional career before I stopped, I really had no business in very little sense, or very little list sense. And so what I did, and I think this is really highly instructive for everyone watching this, is I started to attend different conferences, like NAMS, for example, as an attendee. And I would sit there and I would take notes, and I would try my best to implement those things that I thought I could. And as I did that more and more, what I found was that some of my stuff started to work. And then eventually, instead of being an attendee at these events, I actually started to be asked to speak at these events, much like David asked me to speak at NAMS. And I'm very proud to say that I am a NAMS instructor. But if I trace my key joint venture partners, my key friends in this business, I met them by and through events in some way, shape, or form, including my meeting of you, David. I think I met you through Mike Stewart, who I met at a live event.
That's right.
So one of the really important things here is it's when you come to an event like NAMS, and by the way, NAMS is probably the best event to attend because we are so family oriented. As a matter of fact, we call it the NAMS family. Yep. You come in and we embrace you. We want to see your success, and that's one of the reasons why I really fully support and strongly encourage each and every person watching to come to NAMS and be there live, because you never know who you are going to meet. You never know who that next maybe $100,000 JV or maybe $1 million JV you're going to meet there. Because you don't know, and I could guarantee you that you're going to meet some really, really high caliber, sophisticated, and very savvy people that can later help you in your business if you're developing a long-term relationship, if you are nurturing a relationship with the people that you do meet. So that's my secret weapon.
Well, thank you. That's good. And you, by the way, I told somebody once that you were one of the best closers I've ever met, and you're closing for me now, buddy. So I really appreciate that. I want people to go to nextnams.com, and there's a special coupon. Don't use the coupon that's there today. In fact, I don't think that is a coupon there today. But you go to nextnams.com, and for people who are on this Hangout, use NAMS Hangout. That is the coupon, and that gets you $100 off of the current price of the NAMS workshop. So you go to nextnams.com, take a look at the site, take a look at the instructors, take a look at the schedule. You'll see that we have a lot of activity going on. August 1, 2, 3 is the main workshop. We have add-on workshops on Thursday with Kelly McCausey and, no, not Kelly McCausey, Kristen Eckstein, and not you, Kelly, Kristen Eckstein, and we have with Kevin Riley. And on Monday, we're going to have a really special add-on workshop with Stephen Mamel, who is a Hollywood actor and acting coach who teaches people how to present from the stage with force and purpose. So this is a really great instructor crew. We try to add about 10 to 12 new instructors every time, and we've done that again this year. So go to nextnams.com, and the coupon is NAMS Hangout. So you guys, thank you so much for being here on this first of our daily Hangouts for this week. And tomorrow and the rest of the week, we have additional instructors coming in. I think on Friday we have 7 or 8. I finally had to close that one down. I don't have enough space across the bottom here to see everybody. So we're going to have instructors every day in here talking about these 3 topics as well as additional topics as we go into the week. So thank you again, guys, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you
Dave.
for having us.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.